Today we're going to explore something fascinating that affects all of us. Why even the smartest people sometimes make really bad decisions. Let me ask you something. Have you ever bought something expensive that you later regretted? Or maybe you stuck with a decision even when it was clearly not working out. Perhaps you've ignored important health advice because it won't happen to me? If you're nodding your head, don't worry. Even the most intelligent people, doctors, engineers, scientists, and business leaders, make these same mistakes. And today, we're going to learn why. A few years ago, my friend David, who is one of the smartest people I know, an EIT graduate with a great job at a top company, decided to invest a large amount of money in a scheme promising huge returns. Despite his brilliant mind and many friends warning him, he lost his savings. How could someone so intelligent make such a poor decision? Today I'm going to reveal the hidden forces that trick our minds and lead even the smartest people to make bad decisions. These are called cognitive biases, the mental shortcuts and patterns that affect our thinking without us even knowing it. In this video, we'll explore why being smart doesn't protect you from making bad decisions, the most powerful cognitive biases that affect our daily lives, real stories of how these biases have caused major problems, and most importantly, practical techniques to overcome these biases. By the end of this video, you'll understand your own mind better and be able to make smarter decisions in your career, relationships, and life. So let's begin this journey to better decision-making. Part 1. Why intelligence doesn't guarantee good decisions. Let's start with a surprising fact. Studies show that higher intelligence doesn't always lead to better decisions. In fact, sometimes being very smart can actually make you more vulnerable to certain mistakes. Researchers at Yale University found that people with higher cognitive abilities were actually more susceptible to certain biases. Why? Because intelligent people are better at creating convincing explanations for their beliefs, even when those beliefs are wrong. Think about some of the highly educated people you know. The doctor who smokes cigarettes despite knowing the health risks. The finance expert who falls into debt. The brilliant student who waits until the last minute to study for exams. This happens because our brains operate in two different systems. System 1. Fast, automatic, emotional thinking. System 2. Slow, deliberate, logical thinking. Even the most intelligent people primarily use System 1 for most decisions. It's simply how our brains are designed to conserve energy and make quick judgments. Consider the story of Dr. Mehra, a brilliant cardiologist who saves lives daily. Despite warning his patients about the dangers of stress and poor diet, he himself works 16-hour days, eats hospital canteen food, and rarely exercises. When asked about this contradiction, he says, "I know what I should do, but I'm too busy helping others." Even with all his medical knowledge, Dr. Mehra's brain creates exceptions for his own behavior. This is cognitive bias in action. Remember, intelligence gives you the capacity to solve problems, but it doesn't automatically protect you from biases. In fact, smart people are often better at rationalizing poor choices. Understanding this is the first step to making better decisions. Part 2. Confirmation bias. Seeing what we want to see. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful biases affecting our decisions, confirmation bias. This is our tendency to notice and remember information that confirms what we already believe, while ignoring evidence that contradicts our views. Do you notice how cricket fans will remember all the great performances of their favorite players, but quickly forget their failures? Or how someone who believes a particular political party is corrupt will only remember news stories that support that view? Our brains naturally look for patterns that match our existing beliefs. It's actually physically uncomfortable for us to hold contradicting ideas. Scientists call this cognitive dissonance, and our minds work hard to avoid it. Let me tell you about two neighbors, Anaya and Anika. Both were considering the same school for their children. Anaya had heard good things about the school, so when she visited, She noticed the awards displayed in the office, the engaged students, and the well-maintained facilities. Anika, however, had heard some negative reviews. During her identical visit, she noticed students looking bored, overworked teachers, and peeling paint in some classrooms. Same school, same day, completely different observations. Each saw what confirmed their existing beliefs. Confirmation bias affects major life decisions. It's why people stay in jobs they dislike, remain in unhappy relationships, or keep investing in failing businesses. We see the evidence that confirms we made the right choice and ignore signs that we didn't. To fight confirmation bias, practice the consider the opposite technique. For any important decision, force yourself to list 3 reasons why your initial thinking might be wrong. This simple act can break your brain out of its pattern of only seeing confirming evidence. When making important decisions, also seek opinions from people who think differently than you. Their perspective might catch what you're missing. Part 3. Loss aversion. Why we hate losing more than we love winning. Now, let's move to another powerful force that shapes our decisions: loss aversion. This bias explains why the pain of losing 1,000 feels stronger than the pleasure of gaining 1,000. Imagine I offer you a bet on a coin toss. If it's heads, you win Rs 1,500, but if it's tails, you lose Rs 1,000. Would you take this bet? Most people say no, even though mathematically it's in your favor. That's loss aversion at work. This bias evolved for good reason. In our ancient past, losses could be fatal. Losing food, shelter, or social status could threaten survival. Gains, however, were just nice bonuses, so our brains evolved to avoid losses at all costs. Loss aversion explains why so many small business owners continue with failing businesses rather than trying something new. The shop owner who keeps his barely profitable electronics store running rather than retraining for a better paying job is responding to loss aversion. The idea of losing what he has feels worse than the potential gain of something better. This bias has huge effects on how we handle money. Studies show investors feel the pain of losses twice as strongly as the pleasure of equal gains. This is why many people sell winning stocks too early to lock in gains and hold losing stocks too long to avoid confirming the loss. James and Emma saved for years to buy a flat in Mumbai. After purchasing, they discovered serious problems with the building's foundation that would be expensive to fix. Despite expert advice to sell and find a better property, they refused. "We've put so much into this place," they said. They couldn't bear to accept the loss, so they spent even more money on a problematic home. To counter loss aversion, try the sunk cost mental exercise. Ask yourself, if I wasn't already invested in this situation, would I choose it today? This helps separate past investments from future decisions. Also, reframe losses as investments in learning. Every unsuccessful experience teaches valuable lessons that may lead to better outcomes in the future. Availability bias. Why we fear the wrong things. Let's explore another fascinating bias: availability bias. This is our tendency to believe things that come easily to mind are more common or important than they actually are. After watching news reports about a plane crash, many people become afraid of flying, even though statistically it's far safer than driving. The dramatic plane crash is easy to remember, while thousands of daily car accidents don't make the news. In many families, parents worry more about their children's safety when playing outside than about the health effects of too much screen time. Why? Because stories of accidents or kidnappings are vivid and emotional, while the harm from sedentary lifestyle happens slowly and isn't as easily recalled. Our news and social media make this bias worse. Shocking, unusual events get the most coverage and shares, making them seem more common than they are. Meanwhile, slow, gradual problems that might actually affect us more go unnoticed. Dr. Sharma, a pediatrician, noticed something interesting in his practice. After a news story about a rare vaccine reaction went viral, dozens of parents cancelled their children's vaccinations. Despite his explanations about the actual tiny risk of the vaccine versus the much larger risk of the diseases, Many parents couldn't be convinced. The single dramatic story of one adverse reaction was more powerful in their minds than statistics about thousands of children safely vaccinated or the very real dangers of preventable diseases. This bias affects how we assess risk in our lives. We worry about terrorism but not diabetes. We fear shark attacks but not heart disease. We secure our homes against burglars but don't save enough for retirement. To fight availability bias, always ask for actual data and statistics when assessing risks. Force yourself to think about slow, gradual risks that don't make dramatic stories. And remember, what's easily remembered isn't necessarily what's most likely to happen. Now let's talk about optimism bias, our tendency to believe we're less likely to experience negative events and more likely to experience positive ones than other people. How many of you believe you're an above-average driver? If you're like most people, you probably think you are, even though mathematically, not everyone can be above average. Studies show most people believe they're less likely than others to get divorced, have health problems, lose their job, or have an accident, and more likely to live longer, have gifted children, or achieve career success. This bias actually has some benefits. Optimism helps us stay motivated and hopeful, but it can also lead to poor planning and unnecessary risks. Think about how many people start businesses in India, despite knowing that most small businesses fail within the first few years. Each entrepreneur thinks those statistics apply to others, not to me. This confidence helps them take the leap, but may prevent proper planning. Optimism bias explains why so many people in India ignore early symptoms of health problems like diabetes. Yes, diabetes is common, but it won't happen to me, even while enjoying sweets daily and avoiding exercise. By the time they seek treatment, the condition is often advanced. To counter optimism bias, use the pre-mortem technique. Before making an important decision, imagine it's 1 year later and your plan has failed completely. Now work backward and think, what went wrong? This helps you identify potential problems your natural optimism might be hiding. Also, look at base rates, the actual statistics for situations similar to yours. This gives you a reality check on your optimistic predictions. Part 6. Social proof. Following the crowd. Let's explore a powerful bias that affects our social behavior. Social proof. This is our tendency to look at what others are doing to determine what's correct or appropriate. Have you noticed how restaurants with a queue outside seem more appealing? Or how you're more likely to download an app with thousands of reviews? That's social proof influencing your decisions. From an evolutionary perspective, following the group was usually safe. If everyone was avoiding a certain plant or area, there was probably a good reason. Our brains develop shortcuts to quickly align with group behavior. Marketers understand this bias well. Notice how advertisements often say most popular soap or join millions of satisfied customers. They're triggering your social proof bias to influence your purchase. One famous experiment demonstrated the power of social proof. Researchers placed several people on a street corner looking up at the sky. Soon, passers-by stopped and also looked up at nothing. As more people gathered, even more joined. This shows how strongly we're influenced by what others are doing. To counter social proof bias, force yourself to list your own criteria for decisions, rather than following popularity. Ask yourself, would I still want this if no one else was choosing it? For important choices, do your own research rather than following the crowd. Remember, just because everyone believes something doesn't make it true. At one time, everyone believed the earth was flat. Part 7. Overcoming cognitive biases. Practical techniques. We've explored several powerful biases that affect our thinking. Now let's put everything together with practical techniques to make better decisions in our daily lives. First, slow down important decisions. Many biases operate through our fast automatic thinking system. By deliberately slowing down, you activate your logical, analytical mind. For major decisions, wait 24 hours before finalizing them. Second, actively seek opinions from people different from you. If you're young, ask older people for their view. If you're technical, consult creative thinkers. Different perspectives help reveal blind spots in your thinking. Third, For any important belief or decision, force yourself to seriously consider the opposite view. Why might smart people disagree with you? What evidence would change your mind? This helps counter confirmation. Fourth, maintain a decision journal. Write down important decisions, why you made them, and what you expect to happen. Later, review these entries to see if your thinking patterns show any biases. Aditya was considering buying a new car that would stretch his budget. Using these techniques, first he waited a week before deciding, slowed down. Second, he asked friends who had different financial priorities, diverse perspectives. Third, he made a list of reasons not to buy the car, considered the opposite. The result? He realized he was caught up in excitement and comparison with colleagues. He chose a more affordable option and invested the difference. A decision he's been thankful for ever since. Understanding your mind's biases doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. We're all human, and these thinking patterns are deeply ingrained. But awareness is the first step toward improvement. With practice, you can catch yourself falling into these traps and redirect your thinking. I still catch myself making these same mistakes sometimes. Last month, I realized I was holding on to an investment too long because of loss aversion. But each time we recognize our biases in action, we get better at managing them. In the comments below, share one decision you've made that might have been influenced by these biases. What would you do differently now? I'll personally reply to as many comments as I can. And if you found this information helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit. Together, we can all become better thinkers and decision makers. Thank you for watching.